Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reda. I'm the designer of Firefly Misbehavin, which is a factions deck building game for 2 to 4 players, published by Gale Force 9. It's available now. In the game, each player is going to be a different faction in the Firefly verse, so either Serenity, the Alliance, Niska, or Evestown. And you start with a deck of 10 unique cards for your faction, and you pick up more cards from a market or from a supply set to try to win the game. Now, the standard victory condition in the game is to start your turn with a certain amount of power in your tableau. So it's based on the number of players. So you can see in a 4-player game, start your turn with 11 power, 2-player game, 13 power. And so cards will have different amounts of power. So you have Abnamdul here, he has 1 power. The Dortmunder here has 3 power. And these cards are in your tableau. If you start your turn with the power, then you win. In this video, I'm going to be talking about episodes. So we have a deck of 15 episodes, and each one has a different win condition. So it's a different thing that you're trying to do in order to win the game. And these cards will also have potentially some additional setup changes from how you start a normal game. So you might start with different cards or specific supply sets, even certain market cards in the game. So I'm just going to go through a few of these just to give you a sense of what the episodes do, how they'll change the game up, and some of the reasons why we designed it that way. So I'm going to start with this episode here. It's called Out of Gas, and it's based on an actual episode. So some of these are real episodes, and some of them we made up. So this one, the win condition is you're going to start your turn with a ship from the market deck in your tableau. So everyone's going to be trying to pick up a ship from the market. So starting with Serenity in your tableau it's not a market card, so that doesn't work. So you have to pick up something like the Dortmunder. So that is a ship. It's got the ship attribute right up there. That little yellow Firefly symbol means that this counts as a ship. So everyone's going to be looking to try to get to the ships, which means that you'll be trying to cycle through cards and whatnot. The other part here is the setup, as it tells you each faction is going to start with 2 verse tokens, and then it tells you which supply sets you're going to use. So you're going to be using Misbehave, Negotiation, Crazy Ivan, and Full Burn. So that's 2 maneuvers that are going to be in that game, and which makes sense because this is focused on ships and whatnot. So like I said, everyone's going to be anxious to try to get to the ships in the market as quickly as they can, and then you've got to not only add it to your deck, but they have to get it into play, and then you have to start your turn with it. So other people are going to be trying to nab your ship from you once you get it out there. So it'll be a slightly more frantic game. So this one's called No Goram Deal, and the win condition here is you have to use a market character in your tableau to make a deal for an asset. And so, once again, you'll be looking for specific things. So, you're going to want to get a character who can make a deal. So, this guy's got the little deal attribute, so he can make a deal. And they're going to be trying to get an asset. So, maybe something like Dortmunder or another card. But there's no worrying about starting your turn. It's just as soon as you do that, you win the game. But to make that a little more challenging is it explains that which supply sets you're going to use. So you're going to be using Misbehave, Negotiation, Faiwu, and Double Cross. And 3 out of 4 of those can cancel deals. So that's the other thing everyone's going to be trying to get a hold of are these other cards. So like Double Cross can cancel a deal, but it can also cancel a Double Cross. And Misbehave can cancel a deal, and it can also cancel any effect that cancels a deal. So there's going to be a lot of incentive to get those things so that you can make that deal and then have those cards in your hand, because these supply cards you can't put in your tableau. So they just stay in your deck until they happen to be in your hand. And maybe you have some effects that will let you draw cards so that you'd be like, oh, no, I'm going to cancel that. So that's how that one is a little bit different. Now this one's called Fully Loaded. And what it does is it says the win condition is power and tableau. So that's the normal win condition. So you can still win via the normal power and the tableau condition, or start your turn with a full tableau. And then the setup tells people to use side B of the board. So what does that mean? Well, everybody's faction board is a little bit different on the side A. So as you can see, we've got 4 slots in the asset area for the Serenity, and then 5 down here. But on side B, it's going to be 5 slots and then 5 slots down here with no restrictions. And just to compare, we take a look at Eve's Down, and their side A has only 4 slots for both the asset area and the command area. But on the side B, it's the same. Everyone's side B is the same. So it's a level playing field when you're trying to win with fully loaded. Now, as far as the supply, it says player determined. So what that means is when you are setting up the game, part of the setup actually is you're going to be drafting the supply sets. So you're always going to have shiny and the black. Those are 2 supply sets that are in every game. There's 6 copies of shiny, 12 copies of the black, which is a negative card that you don't want. And then you've got 4 more supply sets that you're going to have in the game. And this here tells you what attributes those supply sets have to have. So you have to have a supply set that has the deal attribute, one that has the fight attribute, one that has the maneuver attribute, and then one that can have anything. But some of these supply sets will have multiple. So if we take a look at the dart, for example, this has a fight attribute and a maneuver attribute. So you could, for instance, when you're drafting, you could say, yeah, I'm going to draft that as a fight supply set. And then somebody else could draft another fight supply set. Or you could say, I'm going to draft this down here as a maneuver. You could end up with 3 different fight supplies. Or you could end up, if this is here, you could end up with 3 different maneuvers. So that the drafting of these supply sets really can change up how the game works as well. And so the way that you do it is you decide, you choose who's going to go first. They're going to draft, and you're going to draft in counterclockwise order. Then basically whoever drafts last is going to be the one who goes first when the game starts. And there's some slight modifications if it's 3 players, but yeah, that really will make for a pretty interesting game. So this one's called War Stories, based on another episode. The win condition is start your turn with at least 3 characters in your tableau, or with a nabbed character from another player's starting deck in your tableau. And then each player starts with 4 credits rather than just 1. And it tells you which supply sets to use: Misbehave, Negotiation, Full Burn, and the Dart. So this one is more about you're setting yourselves up to be able to nab somebody's character. So if everyone is trying to get 3 characters in their tableau, that's going to be 3 targets for people to nab. And if you can nab a character, interesting thing, again, if you nab a character in a fight, that character is going to go into your hand. And if you happen to be able to have another activation, you can put that character right down. And then if you just have to make it to the start of your next turn with that nabbed character. Now, you can always nab the character and then discard it and then wait to put it into play when you draw it later. And in the meantime, maybe you're picking up more ways to fight and defend your position. So this is going to be a lot more in your face than even a standard game will be. So this one's called 10% of Nothing. The win condition for this one is you're going to start your turn with an item in your tableau and at least 10 credits. And the special rules it adds, so this one changes up some rules. It says factions can spend 1 verse to cycle 2 cards. So cycling is you take a face-up card in the market, you shuffle it back into its deck, and then you replenish. So normally you can't just do that by spending a verse token, but when you're playing 10% of Nothing, you will be able to do that. And that is meant to help you find items. So there's 3 types of cards that are going to be in each of the market decks: the core, the border, and the rim market decks. And those 3 types are assets, characters, and items. And items are the ones that you have the fewest of out of all of those. So in order to find these items, being able to spend verse tokens to cycle the cards, it's going to speed things up for you. And again, it tells you which supply sets to use. Here you're using Double Cross, Palaver, Faiwu, and Full Burn. So an interesting mix of stuff. I'll go over a couple more of these. I want to talk about this one here, Objects in Space. This, again, is another actual episode. The win condition is to start your turn with at least 2 ships in your tableau. And for, Alliance and Serenity, they are the 2 factions that have a ship in their starting deck. So those ships would count. So you're going to start your turn with 2 ships in the tableau, And then it's having you add some cards to each faction. So if you're using these factions in the game. So if you're using Eve's Down, you're actually going to start with an Orion Cruiser, which is a ship from the core deck, in your starting deck. Niska is going to start with the Bonnie May, which is a ship from the Rim deck. So that'll be a Niska starting deck. And since Serenity and Alliance already have ships in their starting decks, they're each going to start with a Shiny. So a Shiny card that gives you 2 influence, can also help you get credits. The supply sets are going to be, once again, drafted and a player determined. And then it's got this little thing there at the bottom. It says Market, and it's got a circle and a square. So all the cards in the Market have one of 3 categories: circle, square, and triangle. And what this one tells you is that you're not using the triangles. So it's actually going to make each of those Market decks smaller by about 8 or 9 cards, so that the ones that are not included, the triangles, that's the one that has the fewest ships in it. So you're more likely to get ships when you're replenishing those markets because you've eliminated a third of the cards in there. So that's kind of a breakdown. Here, one more I'll show you, because this one has, it's a little apropos of the show. It's called Power in the Verse. The win condition is to start your turn with at least 1 card each from the core, border, and rim decks in your tableau, not counting any starting cards. And then the setup is that you're going to add stuff to your decks, just like we talked about in the last one. So Serenity is going to start with Hoban Washburn and Kaylee Fry from the border decks. So they're actually starting with 2 more of the characters from the actual crew. Serenity's starting deck only has Mal and Zoe. So you're getting a little bit further along in the story there. Eve's Down and Niska are going to start with 2 shinies. And then the Alliance is going to start with a Security Interface Pad, which is a core card, and Santo, which is another core card. It's a location. The supply will be player determined. So this one, you know, it lets the players, at least the one who's playing Serenity, have a little bit more of a thematic start to their deck. They can still try to acquire Jane and Book and Inara and River and Simon. And then the last one, Aim to Misbehave, is the last one I'm going to look at. This one, the win condition is to win 3 fights, mark wins with your verse tokens from the supply, or start your turn with a full tableau. So this one, it's all about fighting. You're just going to try to win 3 fights. And the setup is each faction starts with a shiny and a misbehave card in their decks. So they're already ready to misbehave because they'll have a 4-player game. You'll have 4 of the 5 available misbehaves already in there. And so, but you have to have a verse token in order to mark it. So if you have no verse tokens and you want to fight, you can't mark that win, so it doesn't count. So that is a little bit of insight into how the episode cards will change up a standard game of Firefly. It can make it more thematic or more reminiscent of particular episodes. Changes up a lot of what happens. You can make some games a little bit longer and some games quite a bit shorter, just depending on how things roll out. So let me know what you think of some of these episodes and what you would want to see in an expansion. I've got some ideas myself. If you've been playing Firefly, then let me know what you think of that game, and look forward to having you watch some more of these videos. Thanks.